Good morning. It is 10 a.m. Central Time, so I would like to go ahead and get started with this webinar. I hope that everyone's having a great day so far, and appreciate everyone's time for sitting in on this webinar. I am Hideyuki Torishima. I am a environmental geologist with the Illinois State Water Survey, which is located at the University of Illinois. I've been part of the wateroperator.org program since 2014 and currently oversee the day-to-day which involves ensuring the most up-to-date and relevant information and resources are showcased within our website. Occasionally hosting these webinars sharing relevant and useful information for operators and utilities. So during this presentation today, I'll be introducing to you what the wateroperator.org program is, how it's a useful program that aims to help water and wastewater professionals around the country to help them maintain compliance and enhance public health, and while focusing on today's topic, workforce development and succession planning. Before I start, I wanted to quickly go over some housekeeping stuff. So this webinar will be presented on the GoToWebinar platform. For those that have not used GoToWebinar before, you should see a console similar to what I have shown on the slide. There is a question section where you will be able to submit any questions you may have throughout the webinar, which we will review at the end. So throughout this webinar, feel free to ask any questions. Go ahead and just type in the chat, and we have someone that's recording all of those questions. The webinar will also be recorded and will be uploaded to our wateroperator.org YouTube channel once the webinar is over. This webinar has been approved to provide 1.5 hours wastewater hours for Illinois licensed operators. But for those of you from other states, we'll be more than happy to offer you a certificate of attendance or help you complete any forms required by your certification body to help you receive credits. I believe the webinar registration form asks whether you will be requiring a certificate or not. But if you are interested and didn't indicate so during registration, please send us an email at info@wateroperator.org requesting a certificate of attendance with the name of this webinar, just something like workforce webinar in the email text, just so we know which certificate to issue to you. Additionally, we will not be able to provide any kind of certificate for watching the recording of the webinar once that's been published online. Since I will be referencing a lot of links throughout this webinar, if you'd like a copy of the slides, please don't hesitate to email me or email us at info@wateroperator.org, and we'll be more than happy to send you a copy of the presentation once this is over. So this will be the outline for today's presentation. Again, I'll start off by introducing to you what kind of website wateroperator.org is and outline the types of resources, information, tools that you can find throughout our website. That's, again, intended to help water and wastewater operators further their knowledge to protect public health and maintain compliance. I've given similar presentations like this in the past, but we've always focused on a specific area of utility management. Today, our focus is going to be on workforce development and succession planning. We'll begin by reviewing some of the workforce challenges that many utilities are experiencing right now. A lot of the stuff that has been reported by for water associations, AWWFs, they do a lot of surveys from time to time, getting feedback from operators, and workforce is a big issue right now. So they have they've done a lot of work reaching out to operators, getting their opinions. So I'll be highlighting some of those challenges that operators have mentioned in the past. Stuff like issues with retirement, recruiting difficulties, issues with transferring knowledge, and the growing need to educate younger professionals to join the water industry. From there, we'll look at practical strategies utilities can implement to prepare for retirement, how to plan for the future workforce while maintaining and ensuring that your operation is continuing. I'll then highlight publicly available tools and resources that were designed, developed by other agencies, organizations that support workforce development and succession planning, and then walk you through how to locate similar resources through our website. So you yourself can explore what kind of resources, workforce development resources are out there, especially those specific to the water and wastewater industry. I'll then wrap up by introducing other features on our site, like our newsletter, blog posts. We do have a decent amount of blog posts on workforce development that's interesting to read, highlighting some of the public available resources I will be highlighting today as well. And we do also have several self-paced classes that offer CUs that I wanted to touch at the very end. So by the end of the session, you'll know what kind of workforce planning tools and resources are readily available to operators, and ideally you'll learn how to be able to search for similar resources to help improve your utility, to be more sustainable and resilient to future workforce challenges. So what exactly is wateropera.org? It is a website which we developed at the University of Illinois in collaboration with the Rural Community Assistance Partnership, RCAP, with funding from US EPA. It serves as a clearinghouse of publicly available resources to help water and wastewater system operators with a focus on small systems. We basically have a team of staff that scour the internet. We look for and collect any kind of publicly available information and resource that are useful to operators, and we provide a means to search, access the information easier through our website. So rather than having to go through or sift through multiple pages of Google search results, we made a platform to search for relevant resources to save you time. Because if you go to Google and you search the term like water treatment manual or wastewater treatment manual, you will come across a lot of organizations trying to sell their material. A lot of organizations that won't release you information unless you're a member of that organization. This happens a lot with even bigger organizations like AWW and WEF. A lot of their manuals are paywalled. But everything you can find on our website is public available information. There's no fee or registration required to use our site. You don't have to register. You can just get on there and start using all of the tools and access information that's public available. Additionally, if operators do have trouble finding certain information, they can always call us, they can email us, and we will try to help them find the information that they're looking for. Or, if we don't have the technical expertise to be able to answer some technical questions, we will connect you with some of our RCAP partners, or the TAPS, technical assistance providers out there that are actually actively working with water and wastewater systems out there. So how do we find these resources, and what exactly do we look for? We currently have a database of over, I believe, 800 to 900 organizations. These are all, organizations that deal with the water industry or somewhat deal with the water industry. These include national organizations like EPA, AWWA, WEF, as well as individual state agencies, regional associations, in a state organization like state rural water associations, and even vendors. And each of our staff, we visit their website. We routinely try to, on a monthly basis, on a biweekly basis, depending on how often the organization provides new material. We'll try to routinely visit that organization's website and basically look for anything new on any new information on upcoming training events, conferences, pretty much any kind of event that offers CUs for operators. And we'll also look for any kind of fact sheets, manual, case studies, webinar recordings that, again, are useful for operators and worth highlighting. We actually started this website back in 2016. We actually started this website early or late 2000s, but we actually rebranded it in 2016 from smallwatersupply.org to wateropera.org. So maybe some of you who've been in the industry for a long time might have heard of our website name before we rebranded, but we've been doing this for a while, and we currently do have a library of over 15,000 documents, and we do catalog around 11 to 12,000 training events every year. So we do have a lot of great information that's available on our website, and we highly recommend operators check out some of the information that's available on there. We actually started this website because back then, especially for rural water and wastewater systems, there wasn't a great internet infrastructure. If you wanted to download like a huge PDF file of a manual, it took some time. So we wanted to create a platform where operators can search for stuff, search for resources, get a short summary of why that resource is relevant for them, and that'll help them, decide whether they actually want to choose and access the information or not. But we've been doing this. We've been running this program since 2009, and a lot of state agencies do list us as a state resource, which we're really happy about. So I'm happy to be able to highlight this our program again to you all during this webinar. But yes, going back. So after we collect the data on training events and resources, like fact sheets and webinars, we do display the information on our calendar and our library tool on our website. So our nationwide calendar tool is meant to help operators save time from having to search through numerous organizations, websites, training providers' websites, and to be able to find all the relevant events in a single calendar. Similarly, we collect the most useful public available resources and display that through our document library. Both the calendar and library tool does utilize an extensive search functionality. So, it's better than Google. You can actually use terms, categories that we provide for you that are water and wastewater related, just to make you able to search for the information looking for easier. And for each entry or each resource or event we add, we again try to make sure we provide a complete summary with the most important details. So for documents, we'll make sure to provide a short summary of the document, as where we found it, how it's useful for operators, and same on the event side, we try to provide as much information as you can. Is there an agenda? How many CUs are offered? In which states the CUs are approved in? And again, what you will learn from actually attending this training event. And we always try to make sure we connect the users to the host organization's website. So we're not trying to take any credit. We're always linking you back to the guys that are actually developing these resources. We're just there to help you access the information. In the past, we've heard a lot from operators that said that they found the nationwide calendar tool to be super great. They actually found events that they never knew existed from their state. They learned about training providers that they didn't know that were active within their area. So again, it's a great way to find events that you might not have known existed around your area. And we've even had vendors reach out to us saying like, hey, we have a webinar series coming up, and we want you guys to feature it on your calendar. And we'll tell them if it's approved for credits, we'll be more than happy to add it. But if it doesn't offer CEUs and if it costs money, we try not to list it, because again, we're trying to feature the mostly free information that operators can access. But for those vendors, we'll tell them, hey, if you can get it pre-approved, we'll be more than happy to list it. And some vendors have actually gone through that process. So there are actually great vendors out there that are doing training as well. So as I mentioned earlier, we do deal with a wide range of topics, and every resource we add is tagged with a specific category that gets integrated into our search engine. Just to give you an overview, here are all the categories. It's broken down into a pie chart, but this is basically a breakdown of the types of events that we added for 2014 from around 12,000 events. So a lot of the events we do add are related to operation maintenance, certification exam prep, water treatment, wastewater treatment. But we do have several management related categories that we generally tag with workforce development stuff. So whenever you're on our website and you're trying to look for workforce development stuff, these are some of the categories that you can interact with. We do also have certification exam prep. That's a big part of workforce professional development for operators. There are a lot of certification exam prep classes out there to help operators prepare for the higher level or even entry level certification exams. Some of the ones that are offered by rural water stations are even free, so they're very accessible. But they really do help you operators learn some of that or be more prepared for those certification exams. So just wanted to highlight some of the types of information you can find on our website. So again, during this presentation, I'll be highlighting a variety of public available resources designed to support wastewater utilities with workforce development and succession planning. These resources, cover a lot of topics, such as how to understanding current workforce challenges, best practices to implementing successful recruitment strategies, how to improve a operator training program in-house or by hiring another training provider, and planning for future staff transitions, planning for retirements, planning for new workforce joining into your team. But we'll be reviewing a mix of resource types from fact sheets, manuals, webinar recordings, case studies, reports from industry experts. I'll be highlighting a lot of those different types of resources that, again, cover this topic. We'll also look at how to search for workforce development focused training opportunities to offer CUs, as well as documents that'll help or resources that'll help them maintain their skill set knowledge to be able to implement some workforce development. A lot of the resources that I'll be highlighting today come from trusted and credible organizations. We have resources featured from organizations like EPA, RCAP, as well as state agencies and national associations, operator-focused organizations like EFCN, the Environmental Finance Center Network, WEF, AWWA, also publishes a lot of guidance. Some, again, are free, but again, a majority of theirs are paywalled, but some of the free ones are worth mentioning. Together, all these organizations have provided, a wealth of information that, again, most of them are publicly accessible that utilities can use to strengthen their workforce. So hopefully the resource that I'll be highlighting today will be beneficial for you all. So the reason I chose workforce development as the focus today is because, there's been a lot more news articles like these highlighting labor shortages, they've been popping a lot more across the country. Here are 3 articles from 2024 and 2025 that I simply just got from Google. I just typed in workforce shortages, water industry news, and there's just a bunch of them from all over the country, stating how there's workforce shortages, how they're struggling to get new people into the field, and systems, especially rural and smaller systems that are struggling to be able to maintain their system because a lot of their knowledgeable operators are retiring or moving away. So my goal today in today's presentation is to help make these challenges a little bit easier to navigate, and by showing you practical public available resources that can support with your workforce planning efforts. So starting off, I just wanted to provide some basic information on workforce challenges that are commonly reported, some that aren't really commonly reported from what I saw. But first, aging workforce, that's the big one. We've been hearing it honestly for decades. But the average operator is reported to be in their mid 40s to their mid 50s, and depending on the state, 30 to 50% of their certified operators are eligible to retire over the next decade. So this was most recently reported in the AWWA State of the Water Industry report. But whenever those retirements happen, utilities, they not only lose, qualified veteran staff, but decades of knowledge that sometimes are utility specific, that isn't always written down or passed down to the younger guys. So it's really a concern about losing out with that wealth of information. Recruitment and retention is another major challenge as well. Utilities are having to constantly compete with other trades or industries that offer a lot more competitive wages and more predictable or preferable hours. Places, retailers like Costco, or especially the famous chain of gas station Buc-ee's, they're well known for offering above average pay with really good hours for especially younger guys. So utilities are having to compete with a bunch of these guys to be able to recruit some of the younger people. So it's really a challenge. And there's also not that much awareness about water careers among students and job seekers. I think this is starting to change now with a lot more environmental topics being taught at schools, but kids or even high school students, they just don't know water is a career option. So you just really have to do that outreach and reach out to them and mention that this is a viable career path. It does offer a livable wage, and you'll learn and you'll be able to grow through within the career. So it's important to highlight that as well. And one of the challenges that I wasn't aware of, that wasn't really covered in a lot of these reports, I actually found out through social media site Reddit. But there's a forum called r/Wastewater, which has 24,000 subscribers, members, and it's meant to be a place where operators, wastewater operators, water operators, or even professionals can share information, ask questions, and just vent in general. But I did notice there was a decent amount of more recent posts of individuals, I'm assuming are certified wastewater operators or those working in plants, that mention burnout. A lot of them are highlighting burnout as a huge issue. I've added some screenshots of some of those posts, but because these guys are on on-call rotations with 24/7 operation, they're getting burnt out. Especially for the guys that are working in smaller systems, they don't really see career growth. So it's really important to consider these, make sure that your workforce isn't too small, that your operators are being burnt out. I know funding is an issue, but it's really important to make sure your staff is well managed and they're not burnt out, to make sure you can retain them, or else they're going to leave and they're going to go somewhere else that'll pay them better, that has better hours. So this is important. Certification technical barriers is another issue. It can take years to reach a class 3 or 4 license, and depending on operators, that can be less motivating for them, or they might not be motivated enough to actually go through the process to get that higher level certification. And as more treatment technologies become advanced, operators are expected to have a lot more knowledge, how to be able to manage a SCADA system, how to deal with IT stuff, complex process controls, stuff that might not think an entry-level operator might need. Especially for small systems, if a single operator is managing all this, they have to have all this information, and it's really hard for especially younger guys to gain all this information at the start. So that could be a technical barrier. And finally, these challenges become even harder for smaller and rural systems. Limited budgets mean fewer training opportunities. If you have less staff to cross-train, you're not going to be able to retain that knowledge. And operators often end up covering multiple roles within water, wastewater, and even public works, and, reducing even more time that operators might have experience working in the wastewater. So all these factors together make workforce development and succession planning essential to make sure you're maintaining long-term sustainability of your utility. So now that we talked about the broader workforce challenges, I just wanted to highlight some of what the current modern requirements for wastewater operators are, and why utilities may need to update some of their job descriptions, some of their expectations, as well as training plans to ensure that their future workforce has the knowledge required to run a system effectively. So first, operators are facing with extreme, regulatory compliance requirements. They've been wastewater operators. They've always been managing NPDES permits, nutrient limits, and biosolids regulations. But utilities are now having to adapt to new requirements like emerging contaminants and even more stringent water quality standards. So that means operators need a even stronger understanding of those regulatory requirements as well as sampling requirements. So that might be an area that or some of the experiences you might want for your upcoming future workforce. And as treatment systems become a lot more advanced and complicated, especially if you have a lot more advanced systems for energy recovery, nutrient recovery, then you'll obviously need operators that have a lot more experience working with those systems. So you might need operators that have experience with microbiology, experience with chemistry to be able to run these systems. And again, running those more complicated membrane systems, nutrient removal systems, you'll need operators to actually have that knowledge of those, managing those systems. Another challenge is the shift to digital and automation systems. So SCADA, remote monitoring, electronic reporting, automated process controls, they're pretty much the standard for a lot of utilities. Even smaller utilities rely on these digital tools. So you need operators with the technical skills and confidence to be able to work with these systems day to day without being vulnerable to issues like cybersecurity risks. And as mentioned by a lot of operators, many facilities require that 24/7, 365-day coverage, which does impact with scheduling and on-call rotations. So utilities really should balance these demands while also onboarding new staff and training them to ensure that not a single operator is burdened by or is getting burnt out because of those commitment issues. And to help navigating these evolving skills, U.S. Department of Labor, AWWA, WEF, and EPA, they work together to develop the Water and Wastewater Competency Model, which is also shown on the graphic on the slide, but it basically outlines the core competencies or skills that operators need. So it's a great reference if you're, again, reviewing job descriptions or if you're updating training plans. This model will tell you what kind of topics or what areas wastewater utility or wastewater operators should be competent in, again, to help you understand which skills that modern wastewater treatment plants need. So they also do have a webinar basically navigating how to use this tool. If you're interested, the links to the model, which is featured on Department of Labor site, as well as the webinar is on the bottom of this slide. So now that we know what the qualifications we're looking for in operators, let's go a little bit more into workforce development and succession planning itself. So here are just basic definitions of workforce development and succession planning. So workforce development, as you can imagine, is really the foundation. It refers to the strategic approach utilities take to recruit, train, and retain skilled staff. The goal is to basically build technical, managerial, and leadership capacity within the utility. So operators have the knowledge, the skills, and the certification requires to ensure the system stays compliant, even during staffing changes. And workforce development also creates a clearer pathway for entry-level operators to grow into more advanced and skilled roles, eventually become leaders within the utility itself, and the community. So it's very important to have some level of workforce development going on within your utility. And succession planning is the next step or part of workforce development. And it's the step that focuses on identifying key roles within the utility, and preparing future employees to fill those roles, especially as, again, retirements and turnover increase. So having an effective succession plan will help reduce the risks, that come with retirements or people transferring, mainly losing institutional knowledge, and it supports with the long-term resiliency and service continuity. And again, it also eases the burden on some of the veteran staff that carry the most responsibility, because they tend to be the one that know the nitty-gritty of how their plant runs. So This really helps alleviate that risk of losing out on those crucial knowledge from those veteran operators. So together, these steps ensure that utilities aren't just hiring for today's needs, but they're building a strong future workforce. So I mentioned how recruitment, training, and retention are crucial components of workforce development. This information is actually referenced in the 2024 report to Congress by EPA, where they they basically collaborated with the USDA, DOE, Department of Labor, Veteran Affairs to basically identify the workforce challenges impacting the water industry, and they built a framework around it. So this framework is represented in the 3 pillars on the right of this slide. First pillar is recruitment, and this focuses on promoting you know, promoting water careers, reaching out, doing outreach to high school kids, even younger, and even college students to show that this is a pathway or an environmental job pathway that opens them up to a lot of different roles. But the goal is to, again, broaden and diversify your applicant pool to make sure you're considering a lot of different hiring mechanics, like, again, students, apprenticeships, veterans, people from disadvantaged communities, or even justice impacted individuals. The second pillar is competency or training, which is really about making sure that you're using models like apprenticeships, operator and training programs, and structured mentorship programs to train the new staff, upcoming new staff, about how your system runs, any crucial knowledge that they need to be aware of to be able to run their system effectively, just making sure that they have that knowledge that they need to succeed. The third pillar is retention. So, this means creating a work environment that encourages your operators to stay, incentivizing things like career ladders, trying to offer competitive wages, or even like wraparound services like childcare or transportation needs. That does really support some operators out there that might need that. All of these can help with turnover. It will give operators that they feel like they're appreciated within their utility, and helps them stay longer. And finally, the base of this model is partnership. So EPA emphasizes the importance of collaborating with schools, community organizations, workforce agencies, and federal partners to find new applicant pools, and just or help find operators that are, or young staff that are more environmentally focused, have the capacity to be able to work at a plant, which again are the kind of people that really need, that the utilities should be seeking out. So together, this model offers a practical roadmap, and utilities that are struggling with workforce challenges can model their workforce development off of these EPA's model, which can be successful. So now that we know what the framework of a strong workforce development program looks like, I just wanted to highlight some practical strategies that utilities can use to strengthen their workforce. So the first category is recruitment outreach. Effective strategies for this include engaging high school students, especially those that are close to graduation, hosting career awareness events, or partnering with local schools to help introduce younger students to the water sector, maybe do some classes, maybe go to a career fair, just highlight that this is a career path. Again, I mentioned earlier, but hiring veterans is another strong option, because a lot of times they have this technical skills, they have the discipline to be able to work some of those hours that utilities need, and it can open up new pathways to those a variety of different candidates that could work at utility. And returning citizens, or ex-felons, is another option. There are a lot of community groups out there that train these or educate these returning citizens before release, to be able to gain the skills they need to join the workforce. Some of them are water and wastewater related. I know some utilities have explored this as a path, explored this option in the past as a successful workforce development option. So that is something that utilities could also consider. Apprenticeships, internships, operator training programs, they all give staff an opportunity to learn, especially if you're starting them at a younger age. For those, like, especially college students or pre-college students that are trying to debate between whether they want to go into the trades or whether they want to actually go into college or not, that's a very good time to reach out and tell them about water and wastewater utility opportunities, to get them into the water field. Tuition assistance or training reimbursements can also help operators move up with certification levels. It helps them learn through cross training, makes them, keeps them engaged, keeps them motivated to learn more stuff that can help with retention and resilience of the system itself. So and knowledge transfer systems like making sure you have good documentation, standing operating procedures, and mentoring programs in place can ensure you're preserving that institutional knowledge that you don't want to lose. And strategic partnerships, make sure you're partnering with community colleges, operator certification programs, even with state agencies or workforce boards. They can really guide you to candidates that might be that are more inclined to work with the water industry. So definitely try out these strategies. And I will go into each of these strategies a little bit more, but starting off with apprenticeships, why is it so effective? Well, it does combine on-the-job learning and classroom instruction. It gives new hires the opportunity to build skills to learn while earning some paycheck if it's a paid apprenticeship. Many states also count apprenticeship hours as towards their operator exam and certification requirements, so it helps them learn while making sure that they're going to be prepared to take the certification exam at the end of the apprenticeship to become a class 1 or a class 2 or level higher operator. And utilities often see reduced turnover because apprentices that complete those programs are more likely to stay within the utility long term. So it's another way to retain those employees. And apprenticeship can also help utilities grow their own operators instead of relying on external hiring. So it's a great way to grow your community and get people that are more dedicated to serving their community join your workforce. There are several partners the utilities can work with for this. Department of Labor has a registered apprenticeship program where utilities can reach out to, and they can potentially suggest candidates that might be a good fit. Community colleges also have a lot of operator apprenticeship programs within their water and wastewater degree programs. So you could reach out to them to get potential apprentices. And rural water associations in many states, they have their own apprenticeship program, and they can often refer apprentices to specific utilities if they're looking for, especially for smaller and rural systems that they can take advantage of. There are various incentives to taking on an apprentice. EPA's Innovative Water Infrastructure Development Program and the Development of Labor's Apprenticeship Building Merit Grants offer funding for launching or expanding water sector apprenticeships. So, if you're really looking for funding to help support these kind of programs, there are opportunities out there to help offset some of those costs. But for utilities that are unsure to start, I do recommend taking advantage of EPA's Water Technical Assistant Initiative that started somewhat recently for technical assistance. They, I believe, do help with workforce development as well. Or you can reach out to your state rural water association's apprenticeship program, and I'm sure they can help you connect you to some of their state's apprentices that are looking for opportunities to work at a utility. Another effective strategy is, again, veteran hiring. So veterans are generally an excellent fit for water and wastewater careers because, again, they have that strong technical, mechanical, and electrical backgrounds that a lot of these veterans learn from their roles during deployment. They also tend to work in a more structured, safety-oriented environment, and they're more comfortable with shift work, chain of command operations, and emergency response procedures. So those skills really do translate well into utility operations. And there's a plethora number of veterans that have experience actually running water treatment utilities, or with some with engineering background, some with environmental health backgrounds, again during their time during their service. So there are several great organizations and programs utilities can partner with for hiring veterans. The VA has a non-paid work experience program, or the NPWE, which gives veterans hands-on technical training at no cost to the employer. Department of Defense also has a skill bridge program, which gives active service members to spend their last 180 days to work a civil, or to gain the skills to be able to work at a civilian job. So utilities can reach out to these individuals, or these individuals that are in these programs to help them get the training necessary to be able to run water and wastewater system effectively. The Veterans Affairs Employees Services also can be is a national group that can help connect utilities to veterans, and similarly groups like Hire Our Heroes, Troops to Energy, as well as even state level veteran job boards can help you connect with veterans that might be more willing to work with utilities. There are also meaningful incentives for hiring veterans. The Work Opportunity Tax Credit, or WOTC, that provides federal tax credits to those hiring veterans, again helping offset some of that financial burden of having to hire additional staff. Illinois is one of these states that does have a state-specific veteran tax credit for hiring qualified unemployed veterans. So this is a great opportunity to, again, attract those individuals with that high technical and leadership skills that the water sector might be looking for. Another recommended strategy utilities can consider is second chance hiring, which again is the focus on providing employment opportunities to individuals returning to the workforce after incarceration. So this again helps expand the recruitment pool and helps utilities that are helps utilities that are struggling to find applicants that might be more willing to work within a community to grow and return to their to reintegrate back into the community, being an ex-convict. But this approach has been effective as it provides these individuals with, again, meaningful bridge back into the workforce community. And a lot of these returning citizens, they are motivated. They want to get back into the career, to get a career, get back in, get back into their life. So it's their um, uh, returning to the community and again helping them out. So it's a great way to offer them stable hands on career path. But there are some organizations utilities can partner if this is a strategy they want to explore. There are local reentry programs like county corrections, reentry councils, probation programs that utilities can reach out to see if they are any candidates with technical backgrounds that might be looking for a role once they return. Workforce boards are another great ways to reach out to find returning citizens that are looking for jobs. Programs again like Last Mile or Center for Employment Opportunities often connect these returning citizens with stable jobs. So and a lot of technical colleges and vocational schools, they do partner with prisons to teach those returning citizens on technical skills. So if there's a technical college near you that does something like this, you can add a water and wastewater as a curriculum and work with them or partner with them to teach those returning citizens. And again, similarly, the work opportunity tax credit does work for hiring these type of employees as well. So if you're unsure, you're worried about the risks of hiring a previously incarcerated person, there are funding opportunities out there to help alleviate and offset some of those costs and risks. But if a utility wants to explore this as an option, I do recommend reaching out to their local reentry partners, as well as the state workforce agency to get a list of potential candidates and get best practices from their state agency themselves. Another effective workforce strategy is, again, partnering with local community colleges and operator certification programs. These partnerships work well because colleges offer workforce. They have the technical experience. They have teachers that are already teaching this some environmental topics, and you can work with them to add water and wastewater as a curriculum, get added to their have that added to their curriculum or program. So you have the community colleges are training future water and wastewater workforce. And then the utilities themselves can recruit from those colleges as well. So it's a great way to get exam-ready younger professionals into the field and getting them trained. Partnerships also allow utilities to work closely with those operators, those students, and so once the students complete those programs, they can reach out to them and ask them to move on to like an apprenticeship or other training opportunities within, so they can actually get experience working at a treatment plant. But there are several ways utilities can get involved with this. They could join their local community college advisory boards. They could provide guest lectures, or the big one is hosting facility tours, just to build awareness of career opportunities in the water sectors. Utility can offer internships, job shadowing experiences, operating training programs to again help students get real world experience as well. There are a lot of programs out there in our country. I did want to highlight Southern Illinois University Edwardsville Environmental Resources Training Center, or ERTC. That's a very great example from our state. It's a successful college program that builds active partnerships with water and wastewater utilities. Students, they just don't receive classroom training, but they also have to do an internship, a 10-week internship at a utility before they can actually get their certificate and be ready to take the certification exam. But again, a lot of these programs are great. I believe every state has something like this, but there is also funding available to support these partnerships. EPA has a lot of funding. USDA has a technical assistant and training grants to help colleges and utilities expand their training opportunities. And utilities can also partner with career and technical education programs that provides PERK and 5 funding, which can support equipment purchases for training, as well as improve or help develop college programs, and even help fund student costs or cover student costs for training materials or as well as certification fees. So there are a lot of financial incentives out there to work with these students and help them out. And along with those for reaching out to those higher level students, high school outreach is also important. Um, Especially there isn't a community college everywhere. Some places they might just have a high school, but if that's the case, reaching out to and starting outreach early to these high school students is another effective strategy for workforce development. Again, these kids, they don't know that water is a career path. You should host tours, you should do outreach, give classroom presentations, collaborate with STEM related teachers at these high schools or even K through 12 levels, and just teach kids about this opportunity working at a water and wastewater, how it's a environmentally friendly, green field, how there's a lot of advancements because depending on if you want a higher level certification, you can learn and grow, and just being able to serve their community. There are kids out there that just want to serve their community, so this is an opportunity to reach out to those potential younger employees. There are ways utilities can partner. So again, partner with schools, partner with teachers, host tours, teach classes. But there are a lot of CTE programs in local schools utilities can reach out to. You could also reach out to youth organizations focused on science and conservation, like 4-H, FFA programs, environmental clubs, and STEM camps. So there are a lot of groups out there that do these kind of environmental trainings where those students might be a better fit for the field. So try reaching out to those kind of kids if you're looking for to do some outreach to younger to the youth. Internship, job shadowing, operating training programs. I've mentioned this a couple times before, but again, these are great. They give the hands-on experience that younger professional needs, often giving them the hours they need for certification as well. And it's more low pressure for utilities as well as candidates because it really gives candidates the idea of like whether they actually love becoming a water or wastewater operator, or maybe they might actually want to do a different career path. But for utilities as well, it helps them determine whether a candidate is, they're ready for the job, they have the technical background, they have the competency to become an operator. Maybe you don't want someone that's going to be late every day. You don't want someone that doesn't follow steps well. So this doing these kind of programs can really help call and find actual good candidates that'll become future water leaders. So doing mentorships, doing job shadowing internships really gives utilities the opportunity to evaluate their staff and make sure that they're being trained, they have the knowledge required to become an operator. And mentor trainees, they do tend to stay more. I believe there are some statistics out there from organizations like AWF that mention how these kind of programs lead to operators that are better for that stay within the community. Once they're trained, they'll learn to like their system. They want to actually help out the community they grew up in. So it's a great way to reach out to those guys. There are several best practices. You can develop your own operating training curriculum. So there are materials like wastewater treatment fundamentals that kind of guide you through how to develop a good OIT program. But it's a good way to make sure you have a good program for training those operators or to train those that are becoming operators. Helping those that are doing internship and job shadowing like milestones. So making sure you're giving them a clear goal of like within the first 6 months, you're going to learn how to do daily sampling, how to maintain equipment, and SCADA monitoring. That really motivates those that are doing internships and really helps give them some sort of achievement from being able to learn all these different stuff. And that way they can learn different types of role responsibilities that can be applied to other areas within the wastewater system as well. Structured mentorship. So, you should pair trainers with senior operators that are willing to train. You don't want to partner them with someone that's not willing to train. They're not going to pass on the knowledge. You just really need someone that's really motivated to actually educate these mentees and make sure that they're getting the knowledge that they need. And again, documenting those milestones, making sure you're following up with your mentees, making sure they're not getting burnt out, you're listening to them is really crucial. So knowledge transfer and in-house training, that's also another critical component of workforce development. You want to make sure that you have some sort of way of retaining the knowledge. Not everything is written on a binder somewhere that can be lost. You want some of the information to be digitized. So whenever your senior operators retire, there isn't that loss of knowledge. It also helps build internal capacity. So, you your operators aren't relying on that one person that knows everything. Everyone has that shared knowledge, which again strengthens resilience. So, how do you go about that? Just develop those SOPs, make it digital so it's easier to search, easier to access from everyone. Develop videos, develop checklists, even like a day in the life video that shows, this is what I do, this is how I sample, this is what you have to do with our system because it's complicated or different from others. Just having that kind of documentation does really help with knowledge transfer. Um, Rotate staff, make sure that everyone has some experience working at a different part, make sure they have experience doing it in a collection system, make sure they have some lab experience, make sure they have some O&M experience. That really ensures that skill sets are shared equally, so nothing is lost. Make sure you have a digital library of technical manuals, standard operating procedures that everyone can easily access. Don't limit it. Make sure everyone has open access or access to all the information, and even structured monthly training sessions like during meetings, do like a once a month get together as a lunch, do a team lunch, and have the younger guys sit with older guys so they can have some networking going, make sure they're passing on some knowledge. That's a great way to do some team building. And there are a lot of vendors, manufacturers out there that do training. They'll go to the utility themselves and do training. So if you're struggling with training your operators, definitely reach out to these training providers and have them make sure that have them provide the training that your operators are looking for. So some of the organizations that can really help you out or is worth checking out if you're interested in more workforce development. Here are some federal and state level programs. EPA's Innovative Water Infrastructure Workforce Development Grant Program. Again, that's for helping you get funding for training. I believe they're not accepting RFAs right now, but I believe they are planning on doing some in the future. So if you're looking for funding to develop some mentorship programs, apprenticeship programs, definitely check this funding out. And they do have case studies on their website as well that can help you kind of gauge how other utilities have used or how other agencies, partners, utilities have used this grant program to fund their workforce development efforts. Department of Labor's apprentice program. So again, it's a great place to check out and look for apprentices. Or best practices for hosting an apprenticeship. Similarly, USDA Rural Development Technical Assistance grants. That's another way to get funding for helping out with getting more helping rural and smaller systems improve their workforce development. National Rural Water Association also has an apprenticeship program that's worth checking out. And AWW and WEF has several workforce initiatives. They have several resources. They do a lot of trainings. And they also have the Work for Water webpage, which I kind of linked on the bottom of the slide. It's a great webpage for showing to those that are interested in the water industry. It gives you a list of state certification. It gives you a list of certification programs that'll help students get prepared for the certification exam. Just a lot of great information for those that might be curious about entering the field. So that's another great resource to share to those that are interested. And on the state level, a lot of states have operator training reimbursement programs. So see if you can see if local water workforce boards can connect utilities, and as well as get reimbursement for some of those training fees. WIOA programs, again, that offers tax credits. Community college and Perkins 5 programs. So Perkins 5 programs, they actually updated in 2026, so that they're providing more workforce Pell Grants to students that are looking for short-term certification programs like operation training program pathways. So this is another way to potentially get more funding to help students that might be struggling financially to be able to do to change fields or to go into the OIT field or to try an OIT or mentorship or internship out. So and so these are great financial incentives that utilities can explore. So I do want to point out that many utilities overlook the state revolving fund or SRF funding as well, but they do have workforce set aside. So several states can use their SRF allocation to support workforce development. So if utilities aren't sure, definitely reach out to your state SRF program. They might have some funding available to help you with workforce development as well. I'm sure there are more state and regional level workforce development programs out there, but reaching out to any of these programs can, again, help you get started and connected with various resources. So, sorry, I'm running. That took a little bit longer than I expected, but now I'll move on and highlighting various public accessible resources that utilities can try to implement to improve their workforce development. So the first resource I have on here is US EPA's Interagency Water Workforce Working Report, a working group report to Congress. It's if you're new to workforce development, this is a great report that EPA developed. It highlights some of the challenges that a lot of these utilities are facing. It mentions the EPA's workforce pillars and kind of guides you, provides tips on how you can go about with recruitment, training, and retention and partnerships. It also includes various case studies from utilities around the country, showcasing how these strategies are implemented. So it's a great way to, again, get a general idea of the workforce issues, some of those strategies that utilities can start implementing. It is 52 pages, so it's somewhat decently long. But if you want something less shorter, less intimidating to start implementing workforce development, WEF also has a 3-page article, what every operator needs to know about workforce development, that outlines the full scope of workforce development in a tabular format. It provides what knowledge is needed for doing workforce development, like social media, branding, and it highlights some considerations as well as list best practices. So if you're new to workforce development, you want to explore what are good practices that works. Looking at this this article can help you figure out what activities work with improving workforce development. So the next 2 resources come from the Canadian Water and Wastewater Association. So the first is a 59-page manager-focused guide that's designed to help utilities plan, develop, and manage a sustainable workforce. So again, similar to the EPA report, it includes best practices from North America, not just the US, but includes Canada as well. It includes practical tools that works, like operator management and supervisory training checklists. That's really good to make sure that you can assess whether your operators, managers, supervisors have the competency, the technical knowledge to be able to be a successful operator or manager. So this is, again, a great way to identify training needs that you might need to improve or educate some of your staff. They also have a presentation, 31 slide presentation on succession planning best practices. But it highlights best practices you can use to build a stronger internal workforce, how to develop a culture that supports staff development, how to identify leadership champions, how to establish a process to identify potentially high potential employees for future leadership roles within your team, and how to invest in them. So it's another great succession planning strategy. But it also describes how actions like gap analysis can help pinpoint those technical leadership skills that really need strengthening. So both of these resources, they can really help you identify that skill set that that utilities might be missing, and how to prioritize your training, as well as some of your upcoming training programs should focus on. The next 2 resources on the slide comes from EPA and focus on real-world examples or case studies of how utilities have strengthened their workforce. So the first is the Innovative Water Infrastructure Workforce Development Program case study. So this is the program that I mentioned earlier that provides funding to partners and utilities that are seeking for workforce development, funding to develop a workforce development program. But they have several case studies of highlighting how these partners, utilities, have used that funding. But one of them is from Rowan University in New Jersey, but highlights their Waterworks project. They partnered with local utilities to develop a hands-on educational module for K through 12 students and introduce young people into the water careers long before they have an opportunity to decide to go into the trade or college. So, a project like this can really help utilities build the future pipeline of operators who already understand the field and are interested in it. So these are great fact sheets that can help you understand some of those methods that utilities have implemented to attract youth into the water field. The second is EPA's Compendium for Water Workforce Case Studies. So this is a 92-page report that compiles successful workforce initiatives from utilities from all sizes nationwide. They include a bunch of case studies covering from what kind of apprenticeship programs work, how mentorship programs work, how partnership with schools work, and whether internal training was required to help educate their staff because they couldn't recruit people, or what's the best targeted recruitment strategies. So it's a really good report if you're, again, trying to figure out what utilities have done and what might work. They do include several small and rural utilities that have implemented workforce development as well. So it's a really good tool to just get ideas and understand some of the strategies a utilities implemented, as well as the lessons learned to be able to implement a successful workforce development program. The next two resources are more practical tools that utilities can use to assess and improve their workforce planning. The first resource is from the EFCN. It's their Water Utility Workforce Development Training Workbook. It's a 16-page workbook designed to help utilities assess their current workforce needs and, again, help identify staffing gaps. But it uses a self-evaluation tool, like a checklist, to help utilities map out their current staffing, some of the skills that that they have, some skills, help identify the skills that they're missing, operator competencies, and even succession risks. So if you want to start doing some workforce development, but you don't want like something comprehensive, something short like this might be a great tool to start. Just start jotting down notes. Start thinking about how you might want to assess some of these issues that have come out from doing your assessment. EPA also has a more comprehensive assessment tool. There's sustainable and effective practices for creating your water utility roadmap. It's a 104-page guide. It's a little bit bigger guide, but it's not just all on workforce development. And was designed to as part of EPA's effective utility management framework, and it includes a bunch of different checklists in different areas of utility management to help identify gaps, identify areas that utilities might want to improve on, one of them being workforce development. So another checklist that utilities can use to, again, assess their workforce development, what areas EPA determines might be lacking, and help, again, direct utilities towards areas that they should improve on. So together, these two resources can offer a mix of quick and more in-depth self-assessment to aid with workforce planning. Here are some additional tools that I thought were worth mentioning, as, again, they're related to workforce planning. The first resource is from NUIPIC, the Northeast Guide for Estimating Staffing at Wastewater Treatment Plants. So they're a training provider in the Northeast. They do a lot of training for and certification exams for wastewater operators up in the area, the New England area. But they have this guide. It's an 82-page guide that's designed to help utilities plan appropriate operator, make sure that they're planning that the operator capacity are met within their utility to maintain safe and compliant operations. It walks managers, supervisors through how to evaluate their existing staffing level, instructions for using their companion Excel spreadsheet tool that helps record information like staffing needs. If you're planning on upgrades, making changes to your treatment system, what kind of new skill set you're going to need. It just gives a utility a more standardized ways to assess their workforce gaps and anticipate future requirements. So both those, the links on the bottom, the top one is to the guide, the second one is to the actual tool itself, but they're both great tools that can really help you identify those staffing needs, future staffing needs, to help you, again, plan out some future workforce development. USCVA also has a water operator hiring and contracting guide. It's a 41-page guide that outlines a step-by-step process for hiring and contracting licensed operators, particularly useful for utilities facing shortages or trying to maintain compliance during staffing transitions. So if you're really struggling for hiring, this is a good guide that you can read to understand some best practices for hiring operators. But one of the tool that the information on here that I want to mention, that they do include a pretty decent structured guidance for doing interviews and evaluating potential candidates using their built-in operator interview tool. So if you're struggling to come up with interview questions, looking at this might give you more guidance on how to ask questions and assess potential candidates. And I know this is more related to the drinking water side, but a lot of the stuff, the questions and information can be modified to the wastewater side. So it is still, I would say, development for wastewater operators as well. The next two resources I want to highlight are specifically focused on workforce development for tribal water and wastewater utilities. So that's something I haven't really talked about earlier, but tribal utilities, they're also facing similar workforce development challenges as other utilities, but some of them are just unique to tribal systems as well. But the first resource that I have featured on here is EPA's Building the Tribal Water Workforce of the Future report. It's an 18-page report, but similar to other ones, it highlights some of the workforce challenges experienced at tribal utilities. Again, issues, tribal-specific challenges that other utilities might not be facing. It highlights how tribal communities can engage with tribal youth programs. It highlights how tribal utilities should tailor their operator certification training to tribal context. And again, promoting internal growth, hiring some from within tribes. That is also a difficulty, a challenge, but also that's something a lot of these tribal utilities want to do because they want to make sure that they're promoting from within. All those challenges that is mentioned in this report, and it really helps understand some of those tribal specific issues, and how tribal utilities would structure their own utility mentoring program. It's a great report to again understand those tribal issues, or if you're someone that works somewhat closely with tribal utilities, this could help you understand their workforce issues. USET, or the United South and Eastern Tribes, they also have a presentation on developing and retaining an effective workforce, which dives deeper into those workforce challenges that are unique to tribal communities. Highlights some of the issues like geographic isolation, tribal hiring preferences, but it also highlights the benefits of hiring tribal workforce from within the tribe, because it builds dedication, community connection, stuff like that, and frames the solution around the EPA's 4 pillars: workforce recruitment, retention, competency, partnership, and how tribal utilities can to implement that model for hiring tribal specific candidates. So if you're wanting to learn more about tribal workforce issues, these are 2 great resources that can help you understand some of those issues they're having and potential solutions. The next few resources focus on succession planning as a core strategy for utilities' long-term workforce development. So the first resource I have on here is Syracuse University's EFC's Guide on Staff Training Demands, Succession Planning and Certification. So it's an 8-page fact sheet, or 8-page documentation that provides an overview that explains the growing workforce crisis within specific to wastewater utilities, and why proactive succession planning is essential. It highlights how identifying critical positions become vacant is important, how they have to retain knowledge, that's important, and highlighting what wastewater staff need to do to make sure they're continually educating themselves to ensure they have the skills necessary to manage modern systems, and it really helps understand some of the wastewater succession planning needs that can really help guide some utilities with developing workforce development programs, focusing on areas to prioritize, whether you retain someone, whether they need to educate with operated within, kind of gives you an overview of that succession planning needs within the wastewater utility. The second resource is from South Dakota Association of Rural Water Systems. It's their Succession Planning and Retention Handbook. So this is a more detailed 35-page handbook that outlines a step-by-step succession planning framework. It walks utilities through how to identify critical roles, how to evaluate your current operators, what talents they have, what talents they need, how to develop employees, how to keep succession plans up to date, and not using the same succession plan from 10 years ago. It also updates or includes guidance on external and internal recruitment strategies. So overall, it's a great succession planning. It has a lot of great information for succession planning that's more utility focused. And one of the strengths of this specific resource is that it comes with ready-to-use worksheets and templates, a bunch of tables that utility operators can just print out, start filling information in, which will help them start planning succession planning through their provided tools. So again, it's a great practical tool that utilities can reference day to day and utilize to develop their workforce development or to improve their succession planning. I also wanted to highlight this presentation from the New Hampshire Municipal Association. It's on succession planning, but it's actually from a wastewater treatment plant administrator. So it's a 47-slide presentation that outlines a 10-step succession planning framework. It outlines how to identify backup staff for critical roles, how to evaluate employee strengths, how to establish professional development plans, how to test employees for readiness, competency, and just a bunch more. But I just want to highlight this presentation because it's a good presentation. But one of the steps is very interesting. So they recommend, or the author recommends, conducting a vacation test for managers or supervisors to temporarily assign more um, tempor- temporarily assign more responsibilities to younger employees to help them grow. So you might not want to take vacation days, but this is a great way to again pass on some of those responsibilities temporarily, help those operators kind of go through the struggle of what they knew what they have to learn to be able to meet those responsibilities. Again, it just helps them grow. So I thought it was a great tool or a great step to have to implement within your succession planning. So wanted to highlight this presentation. But again, it's a great way to kind of get some of those tips, learn what works, some of those successful succession planning strategies. The second resource is EPA's knowledge retention tool for small water systems. So this is an Excel-based tool. It has 18 tabs, so it's a pretty comprehensive tool, but it helps capture or help record essential institutional knowledge. It helps you record everything from system contacts, what treatment processes your utility uses, what are your sampling procedures, who's your emergency response contact, what's your emergency response plan, what are the equipments currently used, what are your current operator team and their certification levels, and just a bunch of information about your utility. And it includes a step-by-step workflow with hyperlinks and built-in handoff checklists to help you record this information and make it easier for operators to document their procedures, organize documents, track updates, and just consolidate all their utility information into a single place. So it's not in a binder, or it's not in like a single email, or in someone's an operator's drawer. It's not somewhere, it's digitized. Everyone can access it, and it helps retain the information that's really crucial for when you're doing succession planning. EPA also has a 1-hour webinar with live demonstration of how to use this tool to retain that knowledge, your system knowledge. So if you're interested about using a tool like this, I definitely recommend checking those two, the tool itself as well as the webinar. One thing that the webinar makes it very clear is that even if this tool is for small water systems, it can be adapted to the wastewater side. You can change the headers, you can change some of the table titles, some of the treatment processes section to include wastewater stuff rather than drinking water stuff. So even during the webinar, the speaker mentions that this can be adapted for wastewater side. So even if you're unsure, definitely I would recommend checking these tools out to again start retaining some of the information, even if by little. But if you wanted something much less comprehensive and something that you can just print out, start working on during like an afternoon or something like that, these are two good succession planning toolkits that are much shorter. So the first one is from Washington Office of Financial Management Succession Planning Toolkit. So this isn't water focused, it's more general industry focused, but I thought it was a great succession planning toolkit, so I wanted to highlight it. But it's a 17-page guide. It lays out a 3-phase succession planning model where you assess, you evaluate, and you develop. So you assess the utilities' critical positions to help you understand future basic vacancy risks, helps you document the competencies for for each of the required roles. Then you can evaluate and help utilities understand whether those requirements are being met, how you would go about then you'll go about developing your staff, how you would develop your staff so they have that knowledge, or do you have to go with a different route and actually hire someone that has that technical knowledge that you might need. It has a bunch of helpful templates, worksheets for identifying those workforce challenges, and how to select the best, identifying the requirements or the competencies needed for each of your staff. So again, it helps build that staff plan, helps identify those future needs, and it's a more accessible and more easy to understand format. It's created in a way that's easy to understand and guides utility through that succession planning workshop. So I thought it was a good tool. If you want something even smaller, the Oregon Health Authority, that's their primacy agency, has a small water supply succession planning strategy tool, but it's a 2-page, simple fill-in-the-blank framework. I know it says it's a small water supply strategy succession planning tool, but it's honestly the information on here is pretty much so general that it could be applied on the wastewater side as well. It doesn't talk about specific treatment process. It's more about making sure you're recording who your staff are, who potential future candidates are that you can grow within your team, and again helps with that staff planning for identifying those future needs. So either of these, they're great sort of tools that utilities can just print out and just start filling in information. Or you can work as a team during like a get together during lunch and help some of your team members fill in these spots, and which might also encourage them to do their own workforce development as well. So great tools to engage your utility staff. If you're looking for information how to start a pre-apprentice program, like reaching out to the high school youth, EFCEN has a 1-hour webinar that outlines the whole process. That it outlines what their EFCEN's model for pre-apprenticeships are, that utilities can use and model their own. And it just helps prepare the youth to enter the field as well. But this webinar especially highlights how you can reach out to kids as well as people from disadvantaged communities for water and wastewater careers. So it highlights how utilities can reach out to schools, how they can reach out to Rural Water Association or community-based organizations and partner with them to help build that workforce pipeline. And it mentions how they use the U.S. Department of Labor's pre-apprentice program model as well, and how utilities can implement those models and develop their own pre-apprentice program. But again, if you're looking to develop a program like that, it was a very highly comprehensive webinar, and it kind of guides utilities. It also includes examples, so it's a great video to watch to learn about those models. If you're looking for outreach material to distribute at schools or at events, even to adults about getting them into the wastewater field, RTAP has a 2-page recruiting brochure that showcases wastewater operations as a career path. It highlights, the benefits of working at a utility, like again helping out their community, promoting public health, and it highlights the strong career outlook as well. There's a huge growing shortage of operators. There's going to be a lot of open positions as these retirements happen. So it's a great tool to, again, reach out to students, teach them early on about how this is a potential career opportunities, and also includes link to several resources, national, federal resources that for those that are more interested can access to learn a little bit more about the industry as well. So that's a great tool to, again, do some outreach with. The next couple of resources are from BayWork, which is the consortium of water and wastewater utilities in the San Francisco Bay Area, where their focus is on workforce development. But they had several great tools that I wanted to mention. They also have a 32-page report on some of the high need, high to fill skill trades that the water utilities need. So like a lot of utilities mentioned that they don't have staff that has the background with electricians or with electronics techs. Maybe some utilities might need machinists or mechanics where that current operators don't have that kind of skill set. So it really helps identify those really crucial roles, skill sets that are needed, how to develop a career path, whether it's for your internal candidates to learn those skills or to go about hiring someone with that kind of skill set. Because if you're an electrician, you're probably going to become an electrician. You're probably not going to go work at a utility to become their own electrician. So this is a great document to figure out how you can find those, how to develop your current employee skill sets to have that knowledge. Skip through. The second resource I have on here is so BayWork has a bunch of outreach material that can be used within the classroom setting for K through 12 students. So they have several modules that includes full scripts, storyboards, videos, worksheets, activities that students can do. That makes it really easy for teachers to implement water and wastewater concepts into their curriculum. So if you're trying to reach out to those students, if you want to partner with schools to teach a class like that, BayWork has a lot of outreach tools that can be useful or can be modeled to develop your own. They also feature a lot of video interviews of their operators, highlighting how they got into the role, how they enjoy being an operator, some of their day-to-day responsibilities, again, to help students understand or the youth understand what these jobs are, and if they are interested, it'll help them guide towards that direction. So, and utilities can model some of these material, like they can also develop their own videos featured on their social media. That way, the community knows who their operators are, and it could also promote some of the youth within your community to want to go into that field. So, great outreach tools. Baywork also has a internship guidebook. It's a 24-page guide that walks utility through a step-by-step process for designing and implementing a structured internship program. So if you're looking to develop an internship program, this was a guy. There aren't that many guys, but this was a guy that I thought was super useful to understand some of those best practices or common practices that utilities could consider. But EFCN also has a presentation or webinar recording on how to build an effective utility internship program at their utility, and it highlights a speaker that was an intern themselves. So it does include first-person experience, hands-on experience of being an intern, what they learned, and highlights some of the information that they wanted to pass on to other utilities that are considering internships. So another great video to watch if you're looking for some of those best practices and insights from an intern themselves. The next two slides will focus on helping utilities recruit veterans for some of those utility positions. So EPA has a 23-page manual on how to go about hiring veterans for water and wastewater utility roles, but it's from MOS to job guide. It basically highlights different roles within the military that has water and wastewater, that would have given water and wastewater experience to those deployed, highlights how those skill sets translate to water and wastewater utility operations, and again, helps identify those MOS or the job descriptions that would be more applicable for the water and wastewater side. So again, it helps identify those veteran skill sets that would transfer over to the water side. So if you're looking for veterans and if you're trying to evaluate veteran candidates, this is a great tool to kind of learn some of those skill sets. AWWA and WEF also has a veteran employee toolkit. So this is a 10-page toolkit that highlights clear actionable guidance for recruiting and hiring and retaining veterans. So another tool that highlights best practices for hiring veterans, how to structure interviews around how to develop job descriptions that would resonate with veterans more effectively, and how to develop a veteran-friendly internship pathway. So again, it's a great tool to showcase to veterans that this is or outreach material to highlight veterans. This is a great opportunity to work into our field, which can be distributed at events like state fairs, community events, just to target veterans out there. RCAP also has a webinar on how to recruit retiring or veterans into the water sector. So they have it's a 1-hour webinar, but again, it highlights some of the military skills that are transferable to the water and wastewater utility side, how to develop a military to civilian job translation for develop better job descriptions, how to understand some of the veteran challenges veterans face to develop a program that can hire veterans, or doing veteran apprenticeship programs, and just much more so. If you're again looking to hire veterans, it's a great webinar to understand some of those again best practices and how to reach out to those veterans that would be willing to work for your utility. And AWA also has a veterans flyer. It's a 1-page flyer. Again, another great outreach tool, just highlighting to veterans. These are some of the wastewater positions that also incorporate skills that you might have gained during deployment. Here are some of the salary ranges. This is why you should come work for us. So again, a great tool to reach out to veterans. And the last resource I wanted to highlight today is for resources on returning citizens. So there aren't really that many for the water and waste that are water and wastewater specific, but here are 2 resources from the National Reentry Resource Center that's focused on supporting individuals that are returning from incarceration, and how you can consider them as a workforce strategy. But the first resource is a webinar recording that highlights how agencies can connect with returning citizens on employment, how they can partner with parole offices to get that pre-release training that they need to become an operator training or apprenticeship, like giving them the environmental background information they need to work at a utility. So it's a great way to again reach out, connect with, and start training those individuals, returning citizens, if that's a workforce development strategy you want to implement. They also have a 13-page report on basically highlighting what people re-entering the workforce, the challenges that they experience, like they had difficulty securing housing due to felony records, so and limited access support services. These are considerations utilities can maybe provide support with to help support their potential employees, as well as if they do hire on these individuals, how they can support them throughout their actual development process. So, and the Washington Governor's Office, they actually have a article on from a returning individual citizen that became a licensed wastewater operator, and their journey and how they got trained, how they got released and joined the workforce, and eventually became part of the community. So if you're looking for hands-on experience, I definitely recommend checking that article out, which is on the link on the very bottom of the slide. So that was basically the resources I want to highlight today. There's a lot more workforce development stuff out there that I couldn't cover, but if you're curious, if you want to learn more information, feel free to reach out to us, and I can definitely help you find more workforce development information that you're looking for. But quickly, a demo on how you can find similar resources on our website. So again, we do have a resource library where we feature some of the resources that I mentioned today. But to get to that, to use that tool, you want to first go to our website, which is waterop.org. Pretty straightforward. This is how our front page looks like. At the top of the menu, you'll see a resource library menu. If you hover over that, you'll see several options pop up, but on the right side, you'll see a search for documents or a document search option. If you click on that, it will take you to our resource library. So there are several components you can interact with within this search tool. You have a drop-down menu on the left side, you have a keyword filter on the right side, and you have a retrieve documents button on the middle. But if you can interact with all these individual filters, you have categories, which are the 30 plus wastewater water related categories I showed earlier that are those terms that are already embedded into a search engine. There's also types, so you can identify, or you can select what kind of resource type you're looking for. Maybe you're looking for a short fact sheet, maybe you're looking for a longer video. You can also search by state. So if you're looking for case studies like from certain states or documents that are more relevant for state-specific operators, you can choose that. And host is the organization that hosted that resource. And once you fill out those filters, if you click retrieve documents, it will ask you from that search engine. So since this is on workforce development, let's say we want to look for workforce development resources. So we don't have a workforce development focused specific category for workforce development, but we do have asset management, utility management, and financial management. So you can choose one of those options. In this case, let's choose utility management. And if you click on that and click retrieve documents, it will actually run the query. So in this case, I selected category, and from that category list that it generated, I chose utility management. And once that's selected, if you click on retrieve documents, it will actually run that search. So in this case, there's close to 3,000 search results related to utility management. Again, this could be including workforce development, as well as anything related to utility management. So you're going to find a lot more information aside from workforce development. So you really need to narrow your search down a little bit more. You can do that by adding a second filter, or honestly, in this case, you should just choose the keyword filter and search like workforce development or succession planning just to refine your search. So if you do enter that into the keyword filter like this, it does reduce our search result from 2,800 down to 87, which is more manageable to go through. So here's a good example of, again, using the keyword filter and using the category to narrow your search down. But if you start going through these, or in this case, let's say we wanted to find a video, a specific type of resource, in this case, example, video, in which case you can add a second filter, resource type, and choose video from that list. And if we run the search again, we refine it even further from 89 to just 14. So this is much more manageable. If you can go through the list and figure out whether something, if it's just 14 results, well, which one might be the most relevant for you. But to be able to decide whether a document's relevant for you, we do provide a short summary of each resource. The title includes a link to the resource itself, and we also include a repository link or where we found the resource, because if you're looking for more information, having that repository link tends to have a lot more additional information that might be interesting. So we do like to include that as well. So the summary, we try to mention why it's useful, how it's relevant for operators, and we're trying to make sure that we provide enough summary that it'll help you decide whether that's worth checking out or not. So the one I have highlighted here If you recall correctly, this is one of the EFCA webinars on developing a pre-apprentice program that I mentioned earlier. So if this was a webinar that you're interested in or research you're interested in, if you click on the title itself, it will open up a new pop-up with the actual resource. So this is how you can search for some of those videos. If you want to search for fact sheets or manual, you can change the resource type, and that'll help you find the workforce development and succession planning resource that you're looking for. I also mentioned that we do have a nationwide events calendar tool as well, where operators can search for training opportunities offering CEUs. I also wanted to quickly give a demo on that. To get to that tool, you want to go back to our homepage, and at the very on top of the menu bar, you will see an event calendar option. If you click on that, it will take you to our event calendar page, which has a similar search module, but with an empty calendar. There's that drop down on the left side. There's a keyword filter, a keyword text box on the right side. If you click on the select drop-down menu, you will see the 4 similar filters similar to the document side. You have the categories, which are the water and wastewater related categories. You have type, which in this case will be the event types. So are you looking for an in-person event, a conference, or maybe a virtual webinar training opportunity? State would be the state the event takes place in, or the state where the CEUs are approved in. And sponsor would be the organization that's actually sponsoring the event. So for this example, since we're from Illinois, let's see what kind of events are currently available or approved for Illinois operators. So in that case, you want to choose state from this list. And once that's selected, you'll see another list of all 50 states, and you can choose Illinois from that list. And that will automatically populate the calendar just like this. So right now, it's showing the month of February, but it's showing all these events. Some of them have full names, some of them are acronyms. So depending on how many events are in a day, that does compress the event name, but if you hover your cursor over the title, it will show you the full event name. This screenshot is kind of hard to see because, again, there are so many names that are condensed, but you can also switch between a different month view from using a previous and next to check out what's available in March or a future month. Or you can also add a secondary filter to narrow your search even more. So in this case, let's say you're looking for, you're trying to look for, you have a certification exam coming up, and you're looking for certification prep classes to help you get more prepared for the certification exam. In which case, you can select category, one of them being certification exam prep. You can add that to refine your search even more, and we can see that the calendar has condensed a little bit. I did jump over to March view because February is about to end, but here are some of those certification prep opportunities that are currently offered in Illinois. We do see some names like Illinois EPA, which are offering the certification exams, as well as organizations like ERTC that are that's the SIU training center that does training for wastewater operators as well. We also have a list view option. So if you don't want to see everything in a calendar view, on the right side, you will see view list as an option. And if you do, it'll open up a pop-up and it'll give you all the trainings in a single list, which makes it easier to see. You can see the full title, you can see the location, as well as this venue or the city that it's taking place on for additional information. But let's say you're interested in this ERTC class A and B water class. If that's something that you're interested in, you can click on the name or the title within the list view or the calendar itself, and it'll open up a pop-up with all the information that you'll want to know about this class. Agenda, where it's taking place, date, time, contact information, how much it costs, how many CUs is offered, and in which state the CUs are approved in, and the detail of the class, why it's relevant, what operators will learn. So again, we try to make it as easy as possible for operators to decide whether an event is relevant for them, in which case they can go ahead and register. I also wanted to mention that there are a lot more webinar online training opportunities since COVID. So if you're interested in looking for online training opportunities, I would recommend just doing type webinar equals webinar live online, and that'll give you a full list of those online training opportunities. In this example, I was curious to see what workforce development opportunities are out there. So I threw that in as a keyword, and for the month of March, it gave us a bunch of these EFCN webinars that are upcoming that are more related to like workforce planning for small systems, the benefits of internship for wastewater systems. These are all upcoming in March. So if this was since you're part of this workforce development webinar, maybe you're interested in additional webinars. These are some of those upcoming ones that you can explore. So that concludes the demo of the Calendar Resource Library tool. Again, if you do have trouble finding certain information, again, feel free to reach out to us. We'll help you find that information. And I'm running out of time, but just to finish off, here are some of the other features of our website. We do have blog posts that we try to develop monthly that highlights some of the pertinent wastewater and water related topics. To get to the blog page, if you hover your cursor over the resource library menu, you will see browse the blog as an option. That will take you to our blog page. We do try to highlight some of those publicly available resources that we added to our library to help operators find a little bit more information. Each blog posts are broken apart into topics as well, and we do have a workforce-specific list of blog posts that are that might be interest to some of the people in the audience, where again we try to highlight some of those, pathway for career development in wastewater treatment and other workforce development topics. So these are some of the blog posts that are definitely worth checking out. We also have 3 newsletters that we send out monthly or bi-weekly electronically. The first one is our most popular standard water operator bi-weekly newsletter, where we highlight upcoming free training opportunities, upcoming funding opportunities, some of the resources that we've found on our website that we have added to our library that's again more pertinent to current events. A lot of great information on there. We also have a tribal specific newsletter as well as a technology focused newsletter where we highlight innovative technologies, pilot studies that are relevant for water and wastewater. So if you're trying to stay up to date with industry news, I definitely recommend signing up for a newsletter. You can also see an archive of our past ones just to kind of get an idea of what information we do feature, but we do try to feature a lot of free events, free information that are useful for operators. And finally, I did want to touch on our self-paced classes that we offer. So we're not a training provider ourselves, but these are the only courses that we actually provide that offers CEUs for some operators. But our groundwater and well care class, it's our most popular class. It's self-paced, it's online, and it helps utilities understand and maintain their groundwater wells. So it's more for water systems, but this training has been approved in 30 plus states to provide CEUs for operators, so including Illinois. So if you're looking for online training opportunities and if you're a water system operator, this would be a good self-paced class to take. We also have 2 additional modules on cybersecurity as well as source water protection. They don't offer CEUs they're less restrictive on the CEUs, states that approve CEUs, but they're all free. It really helps you understand those cybersecurity and source water protection topics. So again, if you're trying to improve your cybersecurity, these are some of those self-paced courses I would highly recommend checking out. So that concludes my presentation. If you do get a chance to use our website and run into any questions, again, feel free to contact me or my supervisor, Steve Wilson. Our email address and phone number is listed on here. Or if you scroll to the bottom of our website, you will find our email, info@waterop.org email address as well. And if you'd like a copy of this presentation, you can email me, you can email Steve, or you can email info@waterop.org, and I'll try to get back to you and give you a copy of that. But again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to either Steve or I. So that concludes this presentation. Jennifer, I know we're running out of time, but I do want to move on to the Q&A portion. Do we have any questions from the audience?
Yeah, 2 questions so far. One is if there's a veteran out there who wants to pursue any potential job opportunities, how would they go and do that?
So usually in that case, I'm not 100% familiar, but I know there are state veteran workforce boards that and they do tend to keep a track of all the veterans that are looking for jobs. You could also look for veteran-specific job boards, but reaching out to them, they'll most likely be more than happy to connect you with veterans that are looking for jobs. So if you're a veteran, I would probably reach out to those workforce boards and tell them, hey, I have this wastewater utility skill set. I'm looking for a job. Can you let me know if a utility reaches out to us? Or they can also reach out to utilities directly. But if you're a utility and you're looking for veterans, I would, again, focus on checking out those veteran programs, reaching out to those veteran programs, workforce boards, or state workforce boards to just get an idea of the candidates that are available that are veterans.
And have you come across any resources regarding what percentage of treatment plant operators are women?
I haven't come across any resource like that, but I know EPA did recently, not recently, but maybe in 2025 or 24, they did a webinar on women workforce in the water and the wastewater industry. So maybe that covers a little bit more of the information. But if you Google EPA water workforce webinars, they have a dedicated page for all their workforce related webinars. We do have it on our library as well. But again, one of them, they also have a bunch of videos on how to do an internship, how to do a mentorship, and again, highlighting the women in the water and wastewater career field. So maybe that webinar might highlight the information that you're looking for. But if you want to, if you're looking for that information, if you email us, we can try to see if some of our partner, like we do partner with WEF, we do partner with AWA members, they might have the information that we might be looking, that you might be looking for. So we can try to find the information if you're interested. But if so, just reach out to my email address.
And then finally, the information about getting a certificate. You should have requested it when you completed your registration for the webinar. Those will be sent out by the end of this week. If you do not receive your certificate by the end of the week, then you can email info@wateroperator.org, and we'll figure out what happened to it.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Jennifer. And I think that's pretty much it for today. So we're 5 minutes overdue, but thank you all for sitting in on this webinar. We'll be planning another webinar probably in March and April as well. So please stay tuned for our future webinars. And again, if you have any questions, please reach out to us. Thank you for your time.